everybody, Texas Stroker here, Lancet Performance Shop, LoneStarMopars.com. We just took a look at some super cool stuff from Nepros, and what we're going to do now is take a look at what possibly might be the best bang for your buck in terms of a beater set of screwdrivers. Now I know what you're thinking is like, man, you got too many screwdrivers, what the heck are you doing? Well, there is your answer. And this is a set I'd actually seen quite some time ago. I was very interested in it. I'd never been able to find it locally, and I've got to say, if I did find it locally, I might not have bought it, but I sourced it from Amazon for $23.99. This is from Channellock. This is their Code Blue screwdriver line. This is not the American-made Channellock. I've been getting a lot of comments from people on older Channellock videos and DMs and stuff saying they don't like it. It's not American-made. The majority of Channellock stuff is American-made. Everything that's made in America is going to have made in the USA, typically with an American flag on it. What I think confuses some people is the Code Blue grips, which, where are my pliers? Somewhere. I'm not sure where. Oh, there they are. But right here, this is your sort of cheap plastic-coated handles, right? And then you can get these sort of more expensive Comfort Grip Code Blue handles. Both of these handle styles are readily available, and these pliers are both made in America. These are super high quality, super affordable. It's the best of both worlds, in my opinion. Now, the problem is, this, people might be like, oh yeah, that's some American pliers right there, not this Chinese junk. Well, you throw these pliers on the board and it's like, yeah, that's all cheap junk from China. No. Screwdrivers, yes. This, no. And I kind of do wish that they would distinguish that better, maybe have done a different color scheme for the globally sourced stuff, because what you have is people familiar with this stuff, the lower tier type of components and tools, and they have maybe bad experiences, or they just grab it in the store and they're like, I hate that, it's cheap, and then they assume that this would be a cheap pair of pliers. No. And I wish, again, that Channellock might do something to distinguish that. I totally understand trying to keep kind of like that petty blue color in the mix, and I don't really know. There's multiple ways to correct it. I don't know what the best one would be. But this, yes, is absolutely a cheap set of screwdrivers. This, even though it matches the screwdrivers, is not cheap. It's a super high quality tool, and it is 100% made in America. So the grips, maybe, they're not sourced. Maybe they're sourced from overseas or something, but that has no impact on the tool. Now, this set here, there's a reason it's $23.99, and that's because it is globally sourced. It's made in China, if you will. Now, the reason I'm bringing this in, and some of you might be like, why? Why? You've got fantastic screwdrivers. This is completely unnecessary. Well, I said this would be my beater set of screwdrivers. I brought these in for one specific reason and then one follow-up reason. So the specific reason I brought these in is because I'm about to have to change freeze plugs on my truck, and they're going to be I'm going to try to do it with the motor in the truck, and I don't know how well that's going to go. I've got a few chisels on hand, but it's one of those situations where having something with a handle to drive in and kind of try to knock the plug free and spin it out type of a thing with high quality American pliers, that's where I'm going to use these. If these break, I don't care. If the tip chips, I don't care. If I'm using them and antifreeze comes gushing out, because I forgot to drain the block, I don't care. If the handles get stained. If I completely break this shaft off, I don't care. The striking cap screwdriver is not intended to be used as a chisel, which is what I'm going to do with these. But the fact of the matter is the chisels I have don't have handles on them. The ones that would have handles on them, which yes, I know they make them, there's no way in the world it's going to fit in the tight spaces. The truck doesn't have headers, it's the factory exhaust manifolds. But if I take the camera under there with you, you would see that there's no way I could have one of those big fancy like mortar style chisels or grips and be able to access the freeze plugs. Okay, many of you would be in the same boat. If these work well for that and they're not totally ruined or they're partially ruined, I will use these to bust seams. It's kind of a moot point. Now, this is a 7-piece set. Its part number is SD-7CB. In case I forgot, it was $23.99 on Amazon. You can probably find it cheaper. Many of you could probably find it locally. I tried and tried, and I could just never source the thing locally for some reason. I said that if I had found it locally, I might not have bought it, and that's because when this came in, this is open, this is free, this is ready for you to feel and be impressed or, you know, dejected or upset or whatever. I hate the way that felt in my hand. It's one of those things now with my goal in mind of using this explicitly for this one project, that's fine. And if you're thinking, well, why did you do that? You could have just got them individually. It would have been more expensive, and the other thing is we've got a number 1, a number 2, and a number 3 Phillips. I am not using those as chisels. I'm not going to use them as pry bars. I'm not going to misuse them. I will use the striking cap feature if I ever have like a rusted screw and I just want to, you know, drive the screw head into it and see if I can maybe free it, you know, break the bond between the rust or something. But what these will ultimately do, assuming they either A, don't fit, B, I have to pull the motor, or C, they got the job done for me. I've mentioned a few times in other videos, I'm kind of building like a cheap toolbox that still has decent quality tools in it, you know, that'll kind of be like on the go, you know, help your sister out, friends on the road, so on and so forth. That is where these will ultimately go. 1, 2, and 3 Phillips, going to go right in there. The slotted ones, they're going to go in there if they survive the project I'm about to put them through. So that's sort of the reason for bringing it in. And in all honesty, we're getting a really long-handled one. And then we've got this one, which is probably going to be pretty solid, and then this guy. So we've got a decent selection here to use for the project, and I'm going to see what I think of it. Now, if you're somebody that doesn't care about tools, these are probably decent screwdrivers. They would be very diverse for you. I say that because you're getting 7 pieces. You have 1, 2, and 3 Phillips. You got a wide assortment of slotted blades. You've got different lengths, which is kind of rare that you would get this in like a consumer, you know, ended version, if you will. That would typically be something you could buy as an add-on or an extra type of a deal. They are striking trap, so you would have the ability to come in and abuse them, use them as chisels, even though you're not supposed to. A lot going for them. The only thing this would kind of be lacking for as a homeowner, or, you know, cheap, just I've got to do it DIY type, is that they are striking cap, and you would not want to use them in an electrical setting. So, with that said, there is another selling point to them, and that is that it is a magnetic tip. Now, if you're using these as a beater set, that all of a sudden means you can clean up after the drill press, you know, like the stuff that falls through the slots between there and the table. You know, in my case, if there's a lot of crud built up in the block, I can stick these in the core plug slot and maybe pull some of it out without having to use a magnetic pickup tool. And the head on a magnetic pickup tool is going to be round, and it might not clear where this could go. So there are some selling points. Now, they claim it's a high torque 3-side hold with easy code blue grips. It's a go-through steel blade, as you can see featured there. And if we spin it around to the back side, let's take a look at the specs here. 7-piece, we've got a 3/16 by 4, a 1/4 by 4. We've got a 1/4 by 6, and then we've got a 3/8 by 8. Again, that's the guy that you would typically not see in most sets of this nature. Phillips number 1, we're going to have a 4-inch shaft. Number 2 is a 4-inch shaft, and the number 3 is a 6-inch shaft. Let's see here. Made to ANSI standards in China. It's right there. They don't have the American flag anywhere on here. There's nothing deceptive about it. And another selling feature that I was unaware of, because I haven't paid much attention to these, they do have the icon on the cap. Or at least, yeah, they're actually, okay. So the Phillips are super easy to see, and the slotted are super hard to see. That's like a stupid gold finish. And then with the Phillips, it's kind of darker. I don't know if that's just because it's in the packaging. Maybe it's the same color. It should have been black, I'll just say that. But I'm going to go ahead and cut this off camera and get them all freed up. We'll take a look at the set and see what we think of them. Alright, so there they are, freed from the packaging. The packaging is a complete pain, as you would expect it to be. It's not a very well done blister pack. But again, at this price point, the goal is probably to prevent them from being easily stolen from retail displays. Now, that's something else I want to hit on. You can't really fault Channellock for this, because they do make pretty nice screwdrivers. Granted, I believe they're all acetate handles, so they're going to be like your old style Craftsman everyone's familiar with. The tips on them are very good. I brought some in. Got, I think, a number 2 by 6-inch, sort of for our screwdriver shootout. Never made a video on it. Didn't really see the point in it at the time. But that is American made, and they cost more money. And while they have those on the shelf and they've got the sets and they sell them individually, people come in and they'll see a set of, say, Stanley or insert brand X or insert brand Y, super cheap from China, and if they're faced with paying $65 for a set of Klein screwdrivers or American-made Channellock, most people would say, no way, I'm going to spend 20 bucks on this 7-piece set, and if they suck or they break, I can get 2 more sets and still have spent less money than those suckers that bought American. I don't really agree with that logic. I know many of you don't agree with that logic, but that is why Channellock has to come in and have something at that price point. It's foolish to be in the business and not have something at that point. Now, people like you and me might come in and be like, no way, I'm touching those. I'm going to get their good acetate handle. I'm a super big Channellock fan. I'm going to pay the little bit more to buy American. Totally acceptable, but again, we are the exception to the norm. The norm would be 7 screwdrivers for 20 bucks, sign me up. And that's where these become something that has to be on the market for Channellock. It's just stupid not to. That's why high-end tool companies often have a lower priced point option. It's to fill in the void. Not everyone is going to shell out for the top tier brands or the top tier price or the best, credible screwdriver on the market, and price is going to be the determining factor. This allows them to stay in that marketplace segment. It allows them to continue to invest and continue to make American-made products. In a roundabout way, yes, but that's just how it is in this world today. So the Channellock 6-in-1, which I have over here, that is American-made. It's an awesome tool. It's the acetate handle style. They're screwdrivers, which, like I said, I think the only Channellock I have is that 6-inch shaft, number 2 Phillips, outside of the 6-in-1, of course. They're all going to be the acetate style handles. Now, a lot of people see acetate handles, and they just say, nasty, gross. That's like what my grandparents had back in the day. I need something modern. That's another selling point to this set, coupled with a low price point. Now, I can tell you right now, we've got the number 3, number 2, and number 1. These are going to be pulled. They're going to be put in my cheap but hopefully decent toolbox, and they will be used there. It's a chrome shaft, which I'm not a huge fan of. This is the number 1 Phillips. I don't like the feel of that one. It's a little too small. This is the number 2 Phillips. Realistically, if someone was purchasing this from Lowe's or Home Depot or Amazon, this would be what they would use most frequently. It's not a terrible handle, but it's not a good handle. This sort of like tri-wing design, it just doesn't work well for me. Even now the back end, if you had a screw that was kind of easy to access, that spins okay. But in terms of just the feel in hand, I don't like it. Now, it's got a comfort grip, it's plastic, it's not going to roll off of a work surface. You could probably have a pretty good rake on a work surface, and I think this would still plant. You've sort of got like the hard plastic coupled with sort of like your softer, there is texture ribs on that as well. So, I mean, you get good grip on it, yes, but compared to some other offerings and stuff we brought in, it sucks. Now, for the average person, it's probably going to be fine and they may not care. But I mean, case in point, this Philo screwdriver, which you can get a 5-piece set of these for a little bit less or the same price as these Channellock Code Blues. This feels amazing in hand, and really, they're both striking cap actually too, since this is a wood-handled Philo. But the tip is where we're going to see the big difference, I think, in this set. Now, the Philo tip, I have used this one a lot, so I apologize about that. But you can kind of see, I mean, that's a German tip that's been put through the ringer, and then that is the cheap Chinese one. Now, the biggest difference is this comes way more to a point. And what I've found in my shootout and study of the number 2 tips, you don't want that. That's not going to grip the screwdrivers well. It's more likely to round them out, cam out, all sorts of a host of negatives. This is not broken on the Philo. It's just better designed. Now, like I said, that will get the job done for most people. It looks modern, it looks up to date, so on and so forth. But like I said, the reason I brought this in was for the striking cap. Now, coming back to the number 2, in the camera, that actually looks pretty decent. Now, the part number is there, P204CB. That's going to be like a number 2 Phillips 4-inch shaft, code blue. The problem is for the average person, it would be nice if this just said number 2. Yes, you're going to know it's a Phillips, but when this is just sitting in a holder or a bucket side by side, you're not necessarily going to know that this is a 1 and this is a 2, right? In terms of magnetics, yes, but not super strong. Which again, I mean, for most people that is going to be a selling point for a starter or basic set because it will hold the fastener, which is a nice feature. The Channellock branding only seems to be in one of the grooves here, which is not a huge deal. But what I'm afraid of with that, since it's in sort of like this stupid gold color, I feel like it's going to rub off. And if it doesn't rub off, I know it's going to come off when you use this as intended, which would be a striking cap screwdriver. So right here, this would be our S144CB, so quarter, 4-inch long, code blue. And again, the camera does a really good job of showcasing this. In person, that's very hard to see. You almost have to tilt the cap around to actually be able to see it. And it's not because this is a mirror finish like our knee pros that we've recently unboxed. But let's come in here. I've got the nice little 500G Gedore hammer, and I'm gonna do a simulation hit here, and we'll see how this holds up. And ladies and gentlemen, that was one hit. And the hammer looks immaculate still. And this one, it's got a nice, the camera's not really showing it, but I took a lot of that gold off. So I'll come in here where you can kind of maybe see it better. It's really hard for me to hold this upright with the tripod here, but here we go. Got a second hit there. And again, I think you can see where it's scuffing. I'll come in and do a third. That put a put a pretty good gash in the striking cap there. Not really, I mean, it's kind of hard. This is a 500-gram hammer, so it's not like we have a sledge or anything. And I'm coming at it around, this hand is on this side of the camera and tripod. The hammer's on the other, so I'm not getting a very powerful hit. But we'll do one more. That is our 4th hit. And it looks like we've used and abused this thing for a couple of months, essentially. You can see that's the mar from that 3rd hit. You can see the gold kind of coming off. We've got a streak and a gash right down the middle. I can feel those with my finger even. So yes, they're a striking cap. I'm not sure how long they're going to last for me though. But again, that's why I brought these in. It was a $23 beater set. These will go to leave a pretty plain, easy life. These will be put through a terrible first couple of weeks of their existence, and we'll see how they hold up. So will the tips break? Will they shear off? I'm thinking based on what I did to the cap with minimal effort, we're probably going to have a situation where these tips will in fact break. There's not a lot of meat on that. It's sort of ground down. I'm thinking the tips are going to go. And basically what that means for me in these flat ones is most likely I'm going to just come in, grind that off, and then just sharpen it and have like an ice pick, which it would be a pretty nice ice pick, I guess. If you need one. I can't think of the last time I've known of many people that use one, but there it is. That is the tip. Let's see, which one would I be the least likely to use? I'd hate to do it. I mean, I hate just abusing something, but let's just come in, and this will stimulate some wear and tear, I guess, over time. Particularly if we were using this as it is intended, as a striking cap, which a striking cap is not intended to be used as a chisel or a scraper. It's literally if you had a flat blades, slotted screw right here, you simply come in and you would hit direct, and your goal is to break the bond that the rust has formed, so then you can come in and just turn that free, right? Now, a lot of people think, well, it's a striking cap, so let me come in and get it an angle on the screw. And yes, you can do that. That's going to put the tip through a nightmare scenario, and it's probably going to chip. Similarly, you're going to round out the screw head, if you did need to reuse it or something. But let's just go ahead and hit it once and kind of see what it looks like. So I'll just come in kind of straight up. There is a decent pull there magnetically. It survived that, but I don't think it's going to hold up too well. I don't want to break these off in the video. If I'm going to do that, I want to do it with the freeze plug. And rest assured, if I try this with the freeze plug and I can get access to a couple of the plugs and use these for that said job, I will monitor the tips. I'll take pictures, put them on Instagram or something. And of course, if they work really well, they will be joining the 3 Phillips in the cheap but possibly good toolbox. And the bottom line for me, it's a 7-piece screwdriver set. It was $23. Magnetic tips, striking cap. You can't really go wrong for a beater set of screwdrivers. Ergonomically, this is a very cheap VHA. In fact, you could probably get 7 of these for just a little bit more than that. A 5-piece set you could probably get for around that price. Tip on this thing is amazing. Ergonomically, this is like a dream, particularly compared to that thing. I noticed the one, and it came from Amazon, so it's not like this was sitting in a retail store, but whichever one of these slotteds that they had hanging out, it's like already got like grease. It looks like somebody came in and they just like changed oil or something and they were feeling of this thing. So it's gonna stain easy too, which this isn't the best looking. I love the petty blue. The red isn't bad, but coupled together, it's really not a super complementary color scheme, right? And when you factor in that this red seems to retain stains, which again, that was one that was like that. It came to me that way. My hands are actually clean for the most part right now. It's gonna stain too. It's what can you do, right? You know what? This curiosity is getting the best of me. This is the one I've been whacking on with our Gedore. I'm gonna come in here. This is a Sledge I brought in, which is actually really nice quality. I have not used it yet. I'm just gonna see what it does. It's a 3-pound Sledge, and I'm gonna do the sideways hit, which is weak, and let's see if we can notice any difference there. Oh, I don't know if you heard that. It's, that chunk right there actually went flying across the workbench here. So you'd never know that this just applied a hit to something that came apart. But are these good quality? Not compared to what we're used to. Again, for an average person, a DIY type, weekend warrior, you know, on occasion type of a thing, I think this is actually a good set. But for screwdriver snobs, this is laughable. But the thing is, I know why Channellock has these available. I totally get it. And for people like us, these become a really nice option. I don't want to use my Filos in that situation because that would just be straight up abuse with what I'm going to do with these. And then the Gedore striking caps, that's the fancy high-end German tool striking cap I have. Those are like to the point that they're too nice to use for that, you know. These are not, and there is a lot of value in that. Again, having something that you're fine if it breaks. Like if I were to be using this as a striking cap and the wood handle splits, I would be really sad. Now I could replace it for like $7, but if I'm using these and they break, I'm fine with it. And there is a lot of beauty in that as well. So Channellock, they make amazing stuff. These, like I said, they're not terrible, but they're not up to our standards with what we've brought in, you know, globally. I'm bringing in some of the world's greatest screwdrivers, you know, and you can tell in hand with the fit and finish, all those things are giveaways of the price point. But I think these will be decent though. And like I said, I'm concerned. I think I'd love to use this guy on the freeze caps. I feel like I might be winding up with this one because of the shorter shaft. That's a 4 versus a 6 if I remember right. I don't know. It's not really what you should be doing with them, but like I said, chisels are kind of, I mean, a standard chisel when you're in a weird position, you know, if I'm here on the bench, it's fine, but when you're on your back on a creeper coming up, going through, you know, motor mounts and steering columns and all kinds of crazy crud, it's hard to hold the chisel and get square hits, presuming we could get a mallet in there. These do have a lot of value in that manner, and that's, like I said, I'm very fully aware that I should not be using these, but let's be honest, it's what most people do, and I have a specific application where these could be a lifesaver. If I don't have to pull the motor, it's going to be a huge, huge win for me. And if it costs me all 4 of these, if I'm able to utilize them and break them all to the point that they're non-functional, it's a win because it saved a ton of money. So With that said, let me know if you have picked these up. What do you think of them? Have you used them? Do they actually hold up well? Am I being too rough on them? Do you personally, if you have used these extensively, do you like the handles? Do they fit your hand well? Do you find, again, I think right out here, if you're able to spin them sort of like a ball style and use the shaft, because you can't really do that the way they're designed, but I mean, if you just were able to get in here, you could possibly even knurl this yourself if you wanted to, but then they might be decent. That's going to rub off, I have no doubts about that. Even if you didn't ever use this as a striking cap, I don't think that would last very long, just bouncing around in a toolbox. I think it'll get scuffed up, but it's not bad for the money. I get why Channellock has them available, and we're going to put these through an absolute torture test and see how they withstand it. So with that said, again, I'd love to hear firsthand feedback with these. If you've used them, if you got a buddy that has them, firsthand's always best, secondhand works. And again, decent set, especially for the price point. And again, the magnetic tip is going to be a perk for most people. The striking cap is a nice add-on. It's really a decent set for the money. It's just, with my experience with what we brought in, I know that there's things that you can get for the same price point that are a lot better. So that said, I'm going to put these through a nightmare of an existence, and we'll see how they hold up. LoneStarMopars.com is the website. Make sure you like us on Facebook, follow along on Twitter, and follow on Instagram. Like I said, if we do anything crazy to these and we split one in half or something, I will for sure have some pictures up on Twitter and Instagram for you. So check back there, let me know your thoughts on this set, and I will catch you back here for more from the shop. I decided I wanted to come in here since I've got it and we can do the comparison. This is our number 2 code blue that we just got. This is a number 2 6-inch shaft from Channellock. It's an acetate handle made in the USA. So they've got a very similar tip finish. This paint, or the coating, is a little bit darker on the Chinese one, where this actually seems to be functional. I'm pretty sure that's just a paint on the Chinese one. The tips are quite similar. There's a thinner profile here on the uprights of our American-made one. It's a little bit thicker on the Chinese. And this, you can kind of see, comes into a uniform tip that's fairly blunt. This one kind of has the juts. The only thing handy here on the bench is this hose clamp that I could find. I'm going to take this. This is the code blue. We're going to put it in place. How strong is the magnet? Strong enough to hold the hose clamp. But in terms of the play, you can kind of get a feel for it. I'm now turning it, but side to side, there's not really a positive fit, but again, it is decent. Part of that is being lessened, you know, it's not as dramatic due to the fact this is a magnetic tip. Now, if I come in with this one, the acetate handle from America, and we size it up, it is a more positive fit in the screw. There's much less play, and of course, it just feels a little better as we turn it in and out. I don't think that would have to do with it being a longer shank on the screwdriver, for the simple fact it's just a worm gear. But right there you can see I already cammed out with this one. So these, I mean, they'll get the job done, but again, that was just a direct comparison for you. I had this one, box of these sitting around. This would be a number 3. It fits decent. I mean, that actually fits very well. Much better than that little worm gear clamp. This fits really good. So that is good. Should be the same manufacturer. Well, no, I take that back. This would be the same manufacturer. I wanted to have this guy handy to test out the magnetic tips. Looks like we would use our smallest flat for that. And not super strong, but it is a selling point because, again, if you were having to put this in, say, inverted or in an awkward angle, it will hold the fastener for you. Now, could you get it started without it falling off? I don't know. It's going to depend if it's a blind hole or not, more likely than not. But I felt like since we were here and we had access to this stuff readily available, we should just go ahead and do the comparison. But like I said, if you want to support Channellock and you want to support Channellock making things in America, this is what you would look for. You can pick these up. They're probably not available big box stores. It's probably something you have to order in, but it is available. It is American made. It's a classic acetate handle. Looks really good in my opinion. Feels good in hand. This feels, even though it's old, ancient technology, cheap acetate handle, it feels better in my hand than these do. So take that with a grain of salt. I mean, you're familiar with acetate handles. Everyone's used them, everyone's held them, and it feels significantly better in hand than these do. So I will leave it at that. I think that's all I can add. Again, the magnetic tip is functional. The fit and finish on the 3 was really good. The number 2 left a little bit to be desired, but hey, just thought I'd throw that on for you. I got to get inside and warm up, get some supper, and shower so I can be up and running a forklift at 7 a.m. So I'll catch you back here in the next one, and until then, adios.